The fix is in. The Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
Sports Fix listeners, don't wait all day or all week to get in on the fun. The party doesn't stop when we go off the air all week long. The Sports Fix social media sites are your one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports. Jump over to Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, and become a fan today because we love fans and they create some of the best sports talk in town, Daddy. You'll enjoy talking to your fellow Cleveland sports fans on the Sports Fix fan page. And if Twitter's your thing, well, you know how we do it. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. It's that simple.
Twitter.com/TheSportsFixCLE, baby.
Chat live with the crew during all your favorite Cleveland sports events, tickets and contests and trivia and so much more. Get with us today, The Sports Fix on social media. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Join The Sports Fix on Facebook and Twitter today.
This is Greg Pruitt, formerly of the Cleveland Browns, and you're listening to The Sports Fix.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Boom, off and running on a Friday, end of the week edition of the Sports Fix. And I'll tell you what, today I'm going to put the curse on it, but I can't because I really have to mean what I say today. This is going to be a compact edition of the Sports Fix. It's going to be about 90 minutes of goodness coming your way as I've got a ton of things on the slate this evening and afternoon. After this game, I've got after this show, I've got a big basketball game to cover tonight, and I've got on top of it, I've got to literally crisscross the city in the middle, going in each direction in the middle of the rush hour in opposite ways. So a trip to do my game that should take 45 minutes is most likely going to take about an hour and a half. But it's all good. It's all fun. We've got a lot to do, a lot to get into on today's show. A very, like I said, not just compact, but it's going to be a loaded full of goodness, as usual, edition of the Sports Fix coming your way here today. We've got just a few minutes from now, about 12 minutes from now, CSU Vikings men's basketball coach Gary Waters, the head coach, the head man at the Vikings basketball program, is going to join us here. It's been a couple of months since we've talked to Coach Waters at the beginning of the season. I'm looking forward to having Coach. It's always a good time when he's with us here today. We're going to talk Cardale Jones now here in just a moment to open the show because I actually want to segue right into Coach Waters. I figure what a perfect day to have him coming on to talk to him about the coach aspect, the other side of that, and his thoughts on such a refreshing thing. My man Dan Wismar is going to love where I'm going to go to start this show because I'm going to jump right on where he's at with his those words that he can't stand. You just can't. There's a couple of ways that you can finish that, and it involves this here. But we're going to talk about it. Yesterday, Cardale Jones flipped a script on. He trolled everybody. It was great. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. As I said, get Coach Waters in on the conversation with us. We'll talk, as I tear things apart here in the studio, we'll talk Vikings hoops, as I'll tell you what, say what you want in years past about who they played, who they didn't play in the early part of the schedule. You sure can't say it this season. They faced a couple of top 10 teams, a couple of top 5, I believe, at the time. I know, well, they may have been just outside the top 5. Regardless, you're talking Virginia, Louisville, you're talking some tough squads that the Vikings, Coach Waters told you, they put themselves up against it this season. And we're going to talk to Coach about that because it got his team ready to go play. And I'll tell you what, man, they came close. Louisville, man, I'll tell you, that was a defensive battle. But it got the diamond sharpened a bit, honed for Horizon League play, and we've seen that in the way the Vikes have started out. And matter of fact, they are currently in first place in the Horizon League, 4-1 in the conference. So we're going to talk to Coach Waters about that. Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com, he's here a little bit later on in the show. We're going to talk some football as it is not just playoffs rolling on, but it's championship weekend. After today, only 2 teams will stand fighting for the mountaintop in the NFL. We'll know who's going to play in this year's edition of the Super Bowl. First, they got to get through each other. We'll talk about it and preview the AFC and NFC championship games with Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com. We'll talk some Cavaliers hoops. Says, hey, I don't care. I get it. I'm not going to say. It's probably going to sound like I'm talking out both sides of my mouth here. While on one side, I'm not going to jump up and down and do Fruity Loops that they were able to hold off the Lakers last night. On the other side, you needed to win. I don't care who you were playing. So I'm not going to go too far in the opposite direction either. There were some good things that I saw last night. There were some bad things that I saw last night too. It doesn't matter. It added up to a W. Tonight, a much different set of circumstances. We'll talk Cavaliers hoops, though. I will say this. You know who I got a little bit of extra respect for last night? Kevin Love. I'll tell you that. You guys know me. I get infatuated with watching quarterbacks drag their leg down the field like Aaron Rodgers. My man was hurting last night, and instead of going out, he played. And I know those little things, get over cliched in sports and in all of that stuff and the drama and the storylines that we talk about. But, I mean, that was visible, physical pain. And besides all that, my man took a charge. Now, I've had a couple of people tell me that technically that wasn't a charge. It probably should have been a foul. I don't care. My man never takes the charge, never plays that gritty defense. Man, he did. And that was a big play down the stretch last night. And you know what? Regardless of who they played or how they played them, I was thinking about it as I was doing my show prep here today. Think about us. Every day we come on here, especially in the middle of this losing stretch that the Cavs have had, the pressure that builds just in the conversations that we're having. It's tangible just in the fans, in the media, in all of that. Multiply that by 1,000. I mean, you can think that all of these guys are just millionaires and it just rolls off their back. A lot of them, that's true. Some of them actually have a little bit of passion for the game, and as you know, it's a different millennial generation we've got here, but a lot of guys still do. You got to know that same pressure was building on those guys. Matter of fact, Coach Blatt canceled practice and took the guys bowling yesterday to try to relieve some tension. And I'm not gonna do all the happy, feel good, life is good. David Blatt has just as much pressure on him today as he did yesterday, except a tiny bit of air has been let out the valve at the top. You could feel a little bit. You could even see it just in his face in his press conference there last night. But it doesn't change anything unless that continues to build and continues to grow. And again, it was the Lakers, but you needed to release that pressure somehow, and the Cavaliers did hold on to do that last night, and you had a cool little couple of feel-good storylines there with Kobe and LeBron doing their thing, and I'll tell you what, Kobe Bryant set a record last night for the oldest, set the most assists for the oldest player, as he set the previous record was 15. And he's a couple years older, and he set 17 assists. He set his record last night. Kobe was in I don't know, you can say chill mode, but it was a different kind of chill mode. And I'll tell you what, it's just a side note that I have this on my notes, and I'm going to get it out now while I'm thinking of it. Don't tell me that teams don't tank. And I'm not saying that the Lakers tried to lose that game. What I'm saying is, when teams are strategical about the stretches that they keep their key player out of the game, and I know that Kobe's minutes are very limited, but there was also some strategery going on there in when he played and when he didn't, and I'm just saying, Lakers aren't all that anxious to have their protected first-round draft pick be too good. So keep that in mind, too. But Cavs did what they had to do for one night, and now they get to face the other half. Like Fred said last night, we just flip the floor, change the banners over to the Clippers, and we call it a different building. But they'll be right back in the same building tonight. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Let's do it. Welcome to the Sports Fix. J-Rocc with you guys here. As always, Jerry Myers running across the Sports Fix Radio Network live at noon each and every weekday here, whether you're listening on TuneIn or TuneIn's radio app worldwide, on Spreaker and Mixler and their respective digital and mobile applications, all of that. However you're enjoying the show live, maybe you're on the sportsfix.net, the home base. Thank you for being with us as well. Thanks to each and every one of you guys who are with us on digital delay 24 hours a day. Thousands of you around the world on places like iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider on iTunes and Stitcher Radio and SoundCloud and CarPlay and all the podcasts, all the places that you download and feed the show, however you're getting it, wherever you're enjoying it. Thank you so much for doing the Sports Fix thing with us. This is usually where I open up the phones, tell you to do the Sports Fix thing and give us a call. But bam, Coach Waters coming up in just a few minutes, then Jeff Gorman. I'll open up the phones at the end of the show for a few minutes, but you can call and leave your take 24/7, no matter if the phones are open or not. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535 is the number to call. You can hit us up as well on Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfixcle, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfixcle. And of course, as always, you can email us, thesportsfix@aol.com. And picking up here, I want to talk a little. We'll get the break out of the way. We'll get Coach Waters to jump right in. Cardale Jones yesterday. I'm going to start off. You guys know Dan Wismar several times has pointed out his lack of affinity for the phrase, you just can't, blah, blah, blah. People always say that. We were just talking about that Wednesday, and I thought of a couple more that you could apply to Cardale Jones yesterday. As a matter of fact, I may have been guilty of saying one or two of these in the last couple of days. You just can't turn down the opportunity to make all those millions of dollars. You just can't set up a press conference to announce that you're going to stay in school. You just can't get your stock any higher. Now, I'm guilty of saying that one, and what he did yesterday proved me wrong, because I'll tell you what, that raised his stock to the NFL. No matter what you think, what he did raised his stock in the NFL minds, because you've got a kid who has got his head on his shoulders. In one move yesterday, he erased the jokes about the I ain't come here to play school and all of that stuff. Erased. That is a different young man. And I thought Coach Ginn and Cardale talked to the media yesterday. I mean, really, you could just hear age beyond his wisdom, beyond his age in what that young man was saying there yesterday. And this is a kid, with a family, with people to support. And he found a way to decide, I can get through another season before cashing in. I'm going to come back to school. And the reason that they did it was every bit as cool, to show other kids that you can make this decision. You can stay in school. You can do what everybody else expects you not to do if it's what you want to do. I really thought it was a hell of a thing. Plus, it showed off the Ginn Academy a little bit. Nothing wrong with that. And all of that, to bring it back home, to show the kids back here, I just thought it was really cool. It was so unexpected. I mean, really, Dan Wismar's emailing me at the end of the show, telling me his people are telling him unless something changes in that, and hey, that may have been when that something changes, but this was the plan all along. I mean, you could tell, even with some of his family members saying, hey, you got to think about what's best and so on and so forth, and opportunities. But at the end of the day, the opportunity that Cardale wanted the most was to stay in school and finish, and you got to love the thought that the education that I'm going to get is going to last me a lifetime. 10 times more than anything I'm going to get in any athletic endeavors, financially, and so on and so forth. I'm telling you, so friggin' refreshing. I can't believe. Listen, if you want to be, hey, he wasn't ready, he is ready, those are like, analytical stuff. But people were mad that he threw this press conference to say he was staying home. I thought it was awesome. How can you get mad? I thought it was really cool, really well done, very classy. Coach Ginn spinning the dials there as the introduction went off on the thing. But you know what? He's not the first guy to do this. You know who else did something like this? His name was Peyton Manning. And back in the day, he also held a press conference to tell people that he was not coming out. He was going to stay in school. So not unprecedented, but very unexpected, very cool. As I'm saying, man, I think just really, really good stuff, and I'm looking forward. Matter of fact, let's get the break. I've got Coach Waters joining us here. Let's get this break out of the way, because I'd really like to start the conversation with him right there. I know that this is a story right after the heart of a guy like my next guest, Coach Gary Waters. I'm curious to see what he felt about the refreshing non-decision decision of Cardale Jones, and how well executed it was by everybody involved. What a great example for the youth. I'd love to talk to Coach about that and some Vikings hoops. As I said, a tough early non-conference schedule, perhaps forging this team into what started the Horizon League pretty strong. Let's talk about it. My man, CSU Vikings men's basketball head coach Gary Waters joins us next to kick off the Sports Fix. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, Daddy.
Get your fix.
Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got to do.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Sports Fix listeners, you've heard me talking about it. Millionaires being made all season long at DraftKings.com, America's favorite one-week fantasy football site. I've been playing there too. It's now J-Rocc's favorite one-week fantasy football site. What's one-week fantasy football? That means no season-long commitments. Play whenever you want. Have a player who's hurt? That's no problem at all because you change everything week to week. Injuries don't derail your chance at victory. It's a new season every week. You're never stuck with the same players. You can pick your team in just minutes and be on your way to winning huge cash. This season, one listener turned $10 into $5,000. Another turned $2 into $10,000. And a new millionaire has been crowned nearly every week this season at DraftKings.com. You could be next. Imagine winning $1 million in one day. $1 million just for playing fantasy football at DraftKings.com. Head to DraftKings.com now and use promo code Spreaker to play for free in the $10 million Fantasy Football World Championships. DraftKings.com. Bigger events, bigger winnings, bigger millionaires. Enter Spreaker now at DraftKings.com.
The Sports Fix is on iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeart app today. Subscribe to the show and get your fix. Have you gotten your copy of Cleveland's Finest yet? Highlighting the best moments, players, and media members in Cleveland sports history? In-depth personal interviews with some of the top names in Cleveland sports fill the pages of this incredible book. Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee is this year's must-have book for every Cleveland sports fan. Available now at Amazon.com. Get your copy today. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Hey man, who's that cat coming down the street?
I don't know, but it sounds to me like that whipping man with the bone.
Sure having himself a ball.
Welcome back to the... I got a little Globetrotters going there. Welcome back to the Sports Fix. J-Rocc back with you here as we roll on. Getting ready to be joined on the phone lines by my man, the head coach of the CSU Vikings men's basketball team, Coach Gary Waters. You guys, phones are not open, but you can keep the conversation rolling on Facebook and Twitter, of course, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Email us, TheSportsFix@AOL.com. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Email us, TheSportsFix@AOL.com. I'm going to go to the phone as soon as I find the button here. There we go. Let's allow Coach Waters to talk. First off, welcome back, Coach Gary Waters, CSU Vikings men's basketball head coach. Coach Waters, welcome back to the Sports Fix.
Hey, hi, Jerry. How you doing?
Hey, I'm all right, Coach. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. We're just trying to get ourselves prepared to go play in a hostile environment with a team that's got nothing to lose.
Absolutely, and we're going to dive into some Vikings talking. We haven't talked since the beginning of the season, but I kind of wanted to get your talks a little bit here, your thoughts as we before you came on. I was talking about Cardale Jones, of course, yesterday, and he flipped some people on their ear with what he did. I thought it was just one of the most refreshing things, man, because it spit in the face of all the axioms I was listing. You can't turn down the money. You don't set up a press conference to stay, and I just thought not just what they did, but the reasoning behind everything was so refreshing and down to earth that you don't see that a whole lot in today's society, especially coming from somebody who is known for what he said.
Jerry, that's not over with yet, though.
Oh, well, go ahead, Coach. I want to know where you're at on this. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, when they add up everything, it may come out that he does take the money.
Really? Oh, please, I'd love to expound on. You mean simply as far as, what happens with the quarterbacks this year? And
yeah, I mean, it's hard to really look at this situation and say you don't consider that.
Well, for sure. And I mean,
because of the
money
circumstances.
Is hard. Yeah. I was going to ask you, say that's your guy, and he's talking to you, Coach Waters, what do you think? I mean, I'm sure that's one of the first things because you have to, think of his best interest as well and decide, risk, reward, all of that. But, talk to me about your thought. Were you surprised that they threw the press conference and then he said, hey, guess what? I'm staying. I just wanted to surprise everybody.
And see, you don't know what they're talking about in their camp. See, they may be guaranteeing him he's going to be he's got the first crack, he's the starter, and you just don't know all that. And I'm hearing what was the one kid he's looking at possibly leaving. I mean,
Braxton Miller. Yeah,
Braxton Miller. You just don't know what's about happening there, and it's hard to really comment on it unless you know all those facts. But I'm just saying you don't know when family get involved and the circumstances get involved, and you talk and you see what your future is. Because see, today you got a whole new farm system. I mean, they can bring you in and train because the NFL is about quarterbacks. They can bring you in and train you for 1 or 2 years and have you ready. So you just don't know. That's why I said I just don't know if the book is closed on that one yet.
I gotta tell you, and hopefully I'm not putting words in your mouth, but it kind of sounds that you lean towards the camp of it's really hard to pass up and to do the next step of what you're trying to do.
No, I'm not saying that because, see, that's why I said it's your family and everyone involved. You got to sit and talk about this because you got to look what's the best for your interest. See, he's not a young chicken now. I mean, he went to prep school a year, and then he's been there now the third year. That's 4 years. He would be literally a senior in college.
That was partly why I thought, the decision was kind of a cut and dry. Okay, he's gonna see what he can do here and go make it happen. But that's I think what made it so much more surprising. Now, you don't know what they're talking in that camp, and that's what I don't know. Yeah. They could be looking for another national championship, so all of them are talking together. I mean, what I mean by that, the players and everybody else. So you just don't know. And but I'm gonna say again, I don't know if the book is closed on that one because that's such an interesting.
There's so many outside forces that are gonna come after this young man, and that's why his coach and his family and all of them got to sit down and talk, and they will because you got the best coach in the business that understands this whole concept, and they'll, in my estimation, they'll do what is right for him.
And I'll tell you what.
And that's the whole key. They got to look at it, what is right for him and his family.
And you're right because obviously circumstances, things can change at the drop of a dime going forward. But just on the surface, looking at the idea of holding a press conference to show, assuming that everything on the surface is what it is, to show other kids, hey man, you can stay, you can do that, you can finish what you started to do as far as your education. That part of it, I thought, man, you know what? That's a refreshing example there, regardless of wherever you go with it, because, again, so many people expected the opposite. I mean, when I saw it, I said, man, that definitely is I thought of you as the kind of guy that would sit down, as you said, and go over everything with the young man.
He's got good direction from his high school coach because he's been a very important person in his life. So he'll give him good direction. But I'm going to say again, they have to all sit down and look at this, and I don't think they've had time for that. This just happened.
Right.
They said this is all brand new to everybody. And there was a comment made, and they had a press conference. But, there's still a lot of time here. And if after all that time goes by and everybody sits down and talk about it, and he decides he's coming back and doing that, then they have made the decision they think is better for him. Because this is all about him making the right decision for his family and his future.
You've been in these living rooms, in these decisions and conversations that young men have had with their families before. So I'm gonna take some intrigue here in this, man. Well, let's see after the draft. The
only reason why I say this is because I've had kids that will tell you one thing and then they change the next.
Because they're young, they're
at the
kids.
moment you felt everything was okay, and then the next day they come and say, "No, we're not coming." Okay, and you wonder why. And I tell you, we live in a day and age where loyalties and all that kind of stuff are kind of thrown out the window.
Oh yeah,
it's all about what's best for me, and they have to look at this what's best for him because he's this is a one-time shot thing.
I'm telling you, I'm so glad that this timing worked out to have you on the day after that, because that is a different way that we haven't even looked at this as far as, there's still months before the draft. And I know they've got you have to announce by this date. Well, not if I'm just not coming back to school. If I'm just going to take a walk and go play pro, they'll find a way for me to get drafted by a team or whatnot. So you are right. There are outside forces that could still involve themselves. That's definitely a way that a lot of people haven't even looked at it. You look at it like, okay, it's done. He made up his mind. But a lot of things can happen in a kid's mind in 3 months.
And I don't know if at the press conference he did say, what I heard, and I'm going to tell you my feelings of it, I just heard he said that he wasn't ready.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't say he wasn't going or he wasn't coming back. It didn't say any of that. It just said he wasn't ready. And then he talked about his team and all that, which I think is important to the young man, and they got a chance to win another national title. Think about it. You got one of the better coaches in the business. You got one of the better schemes in the business. And you got great players. So you add all three of them things up, that means success to me.
You don't have one good quarterback. You've got three of them there, plus a couple more that are, and that when you've got the recruits coming.
Yeah, they got all. You just don't know, and I would hate to speculate on it because everybody's got their own view and opinion. But I'd hate to speculate because I don't know his family situation and I don't know all the things that's happening in his life.
And on top of that, in real life, you never know. Circumstances can change to where you go, hey, I had no intention of doing this, but...
Oh, yeah, and you know what? They don't talk about what you just said there, and that's real. That's real stuff because at the moment, you felt good about what you're doing. But if your life changes and things happen, then you change, that may be the good for you and your family at that time, so you got to evaluate that.
Absolutely. Coach Gary Waters, CSU Vikings men's basketball coach, joining us. And, you obviously have been, like I said, part of these decisions and molding young men's lives for quite a long time, man. Seriously, a quality man, not just a coach. But on the coaching, we talked at the beginning of the season about you guys tightening up the non-conference schedule. You really had some tough things on the horizon to start the year. You and I haven't talked since then, so let's talk a little bit. Obviously, you had Louisville, and what a defensive game that one was. And Virginia, 2 top 10, maybe they were top 5 at the time you played them teams. A couple of really tough challenges, man. Talk to me about the non-conference part of the start of your season.
Well, it was very tough, and there was, and what also made it tough is the if you want to call them Power 5 schools, they were tough as well. So you really didn't get a break. You just, you played these guys and then you played somebody else that was tough. And on the road, it's a hard place to play. We lost a game at Valpo that we had a chance to win. And I told our guys after the game is you only get these opportunities so often on the road, so you got to take advantage of them. And that's why this game of basketball is a strange game. So you got to play each and every day you play.
Oh, absolutely. You know, matter of fact, now I can't think of the game. That may have been the one. No, I don't think it was Valpo. It was like 2 weeks back that where you had to get after the guys after the game for the effort and really had a coming to Jesus meeting with your guys there. And
that was a home game we had. We lost to Eastern Illinois. We led the whole game and lost it in the last seconds.
Right, but you can see the difference. Afterwards in your guys, in the way your team has responded and come out and played. Clearly you woke something up in those guys.
Yes, and you know what? You think about those things and everybody says, wow, why are they so hard on them? They embrace those things because they know what went on and they want to be called out on them so they don't have to, so it doesn't happen again.
Absolutely. You know, looking at, some of those, like you said, you hit a bump in the road where you fall, before Louisville. And perhaps, do you think, Savannah State, that was a tough loss there? Is that one of those perhaps looking ahead to the big game?
Savannah State was more, I'm going to put on myself because, we were up and when we were up by 15 in the game and they came back, which you expect sometimes they can get hot on the road and come back. But in the last minutes, we probably didn't execute as well as we should have, and I could have helped in that process because when you're up 3 and you got so many seconds on the clock, I should have had them foul them instead of letting them shoot it. And we went into overtime, and we shouldn't have went into overtime. So I really don't, even after the game, I told the team that don't worry about it. It was on me. This shouldn't have happened. We should have won this game. And so they could be ready for the next game, which they came out ready for the next game, played well.
Absolutely. All the way up until, like you said, through that Eastern Illinois game, you kind of saw a pattern developing where they'd get up for a game and then they'd be down for the next one, and then they'd get up and be down, and that inconsistency of whether it was effort or
let me say this, Jerry, it wasn't as much as they were down because every game we played, like I give you an example, during that stretch, I think we went 2-2, okay? And the 2 games we lost, actually, the 2 games we lost, we were leading the game. So we were playing good basketball. It's just that what we were struggling a little short at in all 3 games. It was even at VCU, we were playing them really tough. Is that you got to finish games strong, and that's where we were struggling. And we finally, over the last, I'm going to say 5 games, started doing a little better at that. And at Valpo, we didn't, and that's what cost us because we missed 5 free throws in the last minute and a half, and we were up. So if you make your free throws, you win those games. And these are things that they're starting to get more comfortable with and understand. And like we played this game at Wright State, we made the free throws.
Right, and we're in those out in the final minute, absolutely.
So and now you win those games. So it's a learning process, but at the same time, we gotta be confident that we can do the things we're supposed to do.
For sure, Coach Waters. And closing out games, one of the things you guys have been working on. The other thing that I've noticed, and it's come even in the last few weeks here, is streakiness during the games, which you get. I mean, obviously, teams go on their runs, but a couple of games here recently, I remember seeing you guys, was it 2 games back when you guys went out big early, but then it came all the way back, and I think it was a 19-2 start to the game or whatnot.
Oh, yeah. And that, 2 things occurred. One, I'm a believer in this, is that wherever a game starts, you can be up, you can jump out on somebody, it's going to be a run that happens, and they're going to be right back in it. Or you can be down, and you'll make your run and be right back in it. I'm a believer in that. I think that happens in basketball. What I do realize is that it's that second hit that counts. If you're behind and you catch up now, once you catch up, when that second time come around, are you able to throw another hit at them? Or if you're up and they come back at you, and now once that's over, are you ready to take it back at them again? So I realize that those things happen and part of basketball, and so I roll with the flow if you give it that, Jerry.
Absolutely.
But on the other end of this is when you got somebody down, you got to take advantage of it because you may not get them down a whole lot, especially on the road, because the road is a tough place to play, primarily not because it's just the road, it's because they go to another level. they're at the best of what they do on the road. Freshmen all of a sudden can hit shots that never hit shots before. I mean, all kinds of things happen. So you got to overcome all those and take that first hit and then go back at them.
You hit right on where I was going to ask you next, if it was just the teams you were playing or the difference, because clear difference between your team's success at home, 7-2, and 3-7 on the road, you know, and I was going to ask you what you attributed that to, and there's obviously some of that, and closing out those games, a couple of those that we talked about on the road too there as well.
Yeah, it's more so, in my estimation, making the right decisions down the stretch. Because of those 7 games that we lost on the road, I bet you only one of them, we didn't have a chance to win on down the stretch. And so, you know, like even our first game against Iona, you know, we had a 3-point lead with 1 minute and 30 seconds to go. I mean, we could win that. You know, those are things that you just got to finish out. And I mean, these are the games. I mean, all these games. Now we're into the league and we've went through all that. Now we got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and that non-conference schedule seems to really have got you guys sharp heading into the league because, as you said, these last 5 games, 4-1 to start things off in Horizon League play. You guys, I believe after last night, you guys are in first place by yourself, right?
I would hope so.
Yeah, well, I think so. I think with a couple of game decisions last night, it put you guys in first place. But it's early still, but a good start.
Oh, it's very early. It's very early. And you know what I'm a believer is that you have to take care of home court advantage. Because you got to win the games that you feel you can win, and then let the others chip falls as they may. So, you know, home court is going to be a key factor in this league.
And I'll tell you what do you guys have? 4 of your next 6 coming up after Youngstown State will be at home, so a chance to get a little bit of extended run there. You've got Detroit, Green Bay, Youngstown State, the next meeting with Wright State coming up, all at home in the next 2 weeks. So hopefully that – because, again, you protect home court, most teams say, and try to go 50-50 on the road or a little bit better, and that's how you add up to a good season. You know, talking of adding up, individually, talk just a little bit about, you know, the guys. Obviously, we've seen Trey Lewis and what he's done. Grady has been able to step up. You can see the difference when he really makes an impact in the game and when he doesn't, what a lift it has on you guys. But talk to me from individual standpoints, Charlie Lee as well, who you've been, you know, pleasantly surprised with, who's been your guys, man. What have you seen with your squad here individually?
Well, Anton has been playing outstanding basketball at both ends of the courts, on defense and on offense, and he's been rebounding the basketball for us. If we can continue to get that from him, we're going to be right there with a chance. And then, you know, Trey Lewis has been a strong player for us throughout the year. Lately, he's been a little down, and we got to get him back up, because without him, we can't do what we need to do. The one that has really taken his game and controlling and doing what is needed for our team to have success is Charlie Lee. I mean, he's had some good games, and he's averaging about 12 or 13 points. But think about the last game. I think he scored 1 point. But he impacted the game. So that tells you, you know, he had 6 or 7 assists. He had so many steals, and I mean, he defended well. I mean, all those things that winners do to win ball games, and he's doing that. But the one that I think is quietly doing a good job out there for us that no one talks about is Marlon Mason.
Marlon Mason. I knew you were going to say that, man, because he was on my list here.
Yeah. He has actually been showing some consistency, and we got to continue that. If we get a consistent effort from him, it really helps our ball club, because, you know, our guys are only as good as the team is. You know, we're not good enough where we can have one guy dominate the game and all of a sudden we still win the game. We need more people helping, and we need a bench. And we haven't had that as strong, but we're getting better at it, put it like that.
And rebounding, hitting the boards, out rebounding teams like you did the other night. Again, that's Anton when he's up there. What's he got? 2 double-doubles in the start of Horizon League play already. That's a good sign and a good start.
That is a good sign, but we need others to help, because, you know, one of our things we put on the board is gang rebounding.
And that's the big key, controlling those boards, no matter what level you're at, man. Cavaliers need to control those boards too, man. And, cooking, putting these things together. You've seen that, a work in progress, you know. I mean, obviously, you know, the Cavs have a lot of problems too, but that's a good example of the difficulty in assimilating so many different personalities and players and all of that different stuff. And it's just an example on that level of what guys like yourself go through every season as you put a team together, and why you love familiarity. You love getting those seasons where you've got, 6, 7, 8 guys who've played together for a few years and have that familiarity with each other.
Well, you're exactly right, and as long as we play together, this is a 5 to 8 man team, okay, and even 9. If we play together, we got a chance in every game because we play defense the way we play it. But if we get some contribution from somebody, and that's going to be the key to this year's success. And you know what? It's so early that I'm not getting up and I'm not getting down. I'm just taking one game at a time.
Talking about defense, man, if I put you in a mascot costume, would you be willing to sneak in to like a Cavs practice and maybe just, whisper into some ears defensively and say, hey, no, I'm just kidding, man. But defense is your thing. And I always tell people, I go, man, they need to just call Coach Waters and Mike Brown and say, would you guys like to come help us play defense? Because these guys, you guys are some defensive coaches is what I'm saying. And
yeah, and we believe in it. We believe in it as a staff, and I believe it helps you win. But I'm going to give you this. And what you don't realize, if everybody looked at me and say, hey, Coach is a defensive guy. He loves defense. You know what I played in high school and college was offense. I just shot that ball up, man, that was what I was all about. But what I realized is that if you don't play defense, it's hard to win. But on the opposite end of that, if you don't play defense, and I'm a believer in this now, you got to play defense, and you also got to put the ball in the hole. Because if you're just doing one, it's going to be a hard thing. So you got to do them both.
Yep, that's what's killing the Cavs is when they're not defending, they're also not scoring. So that you can get away with giving up 108 if you score 110 every night. I say that sometimes, man. I think those guys would be happy to win every game, 110 to 109, man. But then again,
that was literally our team last year. We were an offensive-minded team. So we could put up points. And every game, I'd say, let's put up 75 points. That's our goal. We go into that game. Now, when we defended in that game as well, hold the teams in the 60s, it was an easy game for us. But when they were in the 70s and 80s with us, you flip a coin who can win that game. That's why I put so much emphasis on defense, because if you hold them down, even though you don't have a good day, because you don't know when that's going to happen, you still got a chance to win that game.
Coach Gary Waters, CSU Vikings men's basketball coach, talking some hoops with us. And as you said, now your team getting ready to head out. You got Youngstown State coming up here. What are you guys looking to? What are you looking to see out of your squad there? As you said, you want to make sure that they.
They're a good offensive team, and we got to defend there very well. I mean, they have struggled with wins, but they've been in every game. They've led every game at halftime. They just fizzled out at the end, and they just haven't totally figured it out yet. And what I'm telling you is they're looking for that game that they figure it out. And I'm just hoping it don't happen against us, because they have all the potential to score 75 points. And we're not a 75-point scoring team. We're a 60 team in the 60s. Why? Because we're a little offensive challenged. And if we can get in the 70s, we're going to beat most people. But with 60, we got to defend, and so we got to defend a team that averages 74 points a game, and they do it pretty freely.
And I'll tell you what, like you said, it's also easy. I know some fans, look at the conference standings, you go, oh, they're 0-5, but they're a 500 team on the season, much like you guys are a game above, they're a game below. So, obviously that's a team that can take care of business, just like the Vikings can.
Oh, yeah, because at the early part of the year, they were doing extremely well. They beat some very good teams, and they have the potential to really get it off. I mean, in every game I've watched, the 5 games they have played in our league, they had control of the game because, like they've always been, and I think their coach is one of the better offensive coaches in our league, they run their stuff. They run their offense, and they can score from it, and they have shooters in there. So you got to be able to stop some of that. If not, you're in trouble.
Coach Waters, I'll tell you what, always a good time getting a chance to sit down and talk with you guys. As I said, you've got one more on the road here. Then you've got 4 of the next 5 coming up at home and starting the month of February out with some home cooking there. And just, midway through, what are you, about halfway, a little less than halfway through the season. But where are you at with your squad? What do you like? What do you want to see get improved in the second half of the Horizon League schedule?
Well, what I do like is that we still have the focus on the defensive end. I like that, and I like that we are getting more scoring inside, because that's a key factor for us. Because early in the year we weren't getting to the free throw line and we weren't scoring inside. So we have done a better job at that. And I feel that we've put a stronger focus on rebounding the basketball, and I thought we've done better there. Now, if we can keep all 3 of them things going, I think we'll be in all the contests we play.
For sure. You guys should be undefeated, as you said, in the conference. Had a shot there to knock off Valpo, and they're having a great season too. But you get them again at home at the end of the season. You know what, too? Those home games coming up next are important. As you said, you got to win them at home, because you actually end, as you sure know, with 3 of 4 on the road, the final 4 games in the league there. So,
well, and that's a positive, because one of the things we were looking at going into this month of January is that we played 5 of our 8 games on the road. And that's a tough thing to do, and have success. So thus far, we've done pretty good with it. Now we got to finish it out. And that's the same thing I've told you, Jerry, constantly. We've got to finish it out. If you finish it out, you got a chance to be successful.
And I'll tell you what, something else I just noticed, too, looking at the breakdowns of the broadcasting, too, is a lot of exposure for your program here this season. We talked about that before the season a bit, but with the expanded, programming between the ESPN mobile app and then ESPNU and ESPN2, you guys have had a lot, and you got a couple of Sports Time Ohio games here, too. A lot, I think, it seems to me, a lot more local and national visibility for your games than has been in recent seasons. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're exactly right, and the league has done a great job of putting us out there, which I think is good for our league and for our university. And I think our guys have been playing well on the big stage, and I think that's important.
Absolutely. Coach Waters, it's been fun so far to watch. Can't wait. I want to get down here in the second half while you got some home games left. Check out some games, but you guys have a lot of work to do before the Horizon League tournament comes and all of that stuff, and I'd love to catch up with you here maybe in a month or so and get ready for the home stretch with you, Coach.
Okay, I'm excited, and I hope you can get down. We'd love to have you here, and when our students are back, now we expect to have some fun here.
Absolutely. Let's fill that place up, man. Hey, by the way, I know the Cavs will be all right in the end, but right now, the Vikings are the only team above 500 shooting some hoops in Cleveland. That's all I'm going to say right now, Coach.
Well, yeah, we got to maintain that, though.
Absolutely. Coach, thank you so much for joining us today. Great conversation. Good luck to you guys at Youngstown State this weekend, and I'll catch up with you in a few weeks, I hope.
Okay, you take care of yourself, okay?
You got it. Coach Gary Waters, CSU Vikings men's basketball head coach. You guys can always keep up with the Vikings. Of course, the games are all over television, as I just said, ESPN2, 3, ESPNU. But also, you can hear my man Al Pulowski with the call of the game, usually over on WHK, my former stomping grounds, 1420. 1220 does some of their games as well. Al's the man on the Vikings call. No joke, actually. He's not listening, so I can say this. I started doing high school basketball play-by-play this year, and my research to get ready, I got a hold of a friend of mine up at WHK. I said, hey, ship me out a couple of Pulowski broadcasts, and I just sat down and listened to a couple of hours of Al Pulowski calling CSU hoops and got an idea for how to do the ins and outs of the solo broadcast. So I kind of modeled that a little bit off of Al Paws over there. But anyways, he calls the games on the radio and television for the Vikings. Check him out. Youngstown State on the road and then back home for Detroit next week. And Coach Waters, good luck to them. Look forward to having him back on the show here again soon. Let's take a break, shift gears, news coming your way. Then we're going to talk some football, NFL Championship Edition, as Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com gets ready to join us. We've got previews for the AFC and NFC Championship games. We'll make some predictions. Who is going to meet in the Super Bowl. Let's talk about that and more when Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com joins us next. Thanks again to CSU, the Vikings, and of course, head coach Gary Waters for joining us. We'll be right back with Jeff Gorman talking some NFL playoffs next. But first, the news, and then we're back right after this.
The Sports Fix, your choice for intelligent talk.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Intelligent talk.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good, though.
It could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
These guys must be on the wrong station.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Get him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!
The Sports Fix.
I'm Tyler Zeller, and you're listening to The Sports Fix.
Have you gotten your copy of Cleveland's Finest yet? Highlighting the best moments, players, and media members in Cleveland sports history?
He won it! Milo hit a three-pointer on the side!
In-depth personal interviews with some of the top names in Cleveland sports fill the pages of this incredible book. Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee is this year's must-have book for every Cleveland sports fan. Available now at Amazon.com. Get your copy today. Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix at AOL.com. That's thesportsfix at AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Doug Brown. Kobe Bryant will take tonight off as the Lakers play in Salt Lake City against the Jazz. Bryant says if the Lakers want to shut him down for the season, he wouldn't be happy about it, but he'd go along with the decision. Bryant had 19 points and a career-high 17 assists in a loss to the Cavaliers last night. We've got an NBA Friday night doubleheader starting at 8 Eastern on ESPN. It begins with the Warriors and the Thunder in Oklahoma City. That'll be followed by the Cavaliers and Clippers in Los Angeles. ESPN NBA insider Chris Broussard reports the Thunder, Nets, and Hornets are talking about a three-team trade that would send Brooklyn native Lance Stevenson back home. If the deal gets worked out, center Brook Lopez would go to Oklahoma City, while Jarrett Jack and Jeremy Lamb would go to Charlotte. Newsday reports Alex Rodriguez will report to spring training, hoping to reclaim his job as the Yankees' starting third baseman. The team signed Chase Headley to a 4-year deal, and GM Brian Cashman said he thought Rodriguez's time as an everyday position player was over.
Sports Center on ESPN Radio is brought to you by Lowe's, the best place to save big this winter. Hurry in now for great deals to improve your home and garden. Lowe's, never stop improving.
You're listening to the Sports Fix.
By the face, he talks about the people going under. Revelation knows. And cries like we're lost, cries out. A man decides after 17 years.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix live. A little mushroom head, my boys in the background. I had to put something that said crazy on it because I just did a spit take during the break. I'm not even going to lie. You know, I record the news right before we go on the air, get it ready and all that. But I don't listen to sometimes I do, but sometimes I get busy. I'll hear like the first story or whatever, and then I won't even pay attention to what it's saying. And then I hear it live as we're doing the show. I did a spit take on that A-Rod line at the end of it. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? He just said that with a straight face. I'll tell you what, A-Rod, he's coming for his job. Let me tell you, you can quote me on this. I will give you better odds that Nick Swisher hits 30 home runs this season than A-Rod reclaiming anything other than a paycheck over there for the Yankees, man. I'm just telling you now. The Indians are better to bank on a comeback than Alex Rodriguez is, man. I'm just saying. The assistance is being tested now, and I don't think that naturally his broken down body has anything left in it. I'm just being honest. I'm not saying that he wasn't once a naturally talented athlete, but nature's gone away long time ago. You're a science experiment now without the science to match it up, man. So now you're just yeah. Anyways, I gotta laugh at that, man. I'm sorry. If you feel like I'm taking a shot at A-Rod, I am. That line, that sometimes people say, you know, like you don't even realize the joke is written. I think that was it right there. I think that was just a rib on all of us, man. But anyways, like I said, if you've got your choice, A-Rod or Nick Swisher, bet on the Nick Swisher comeback, man, because you got better odds with that one. Anyways, welcome back to the Sports Fix as we get ready to hit hour number 2 here. And Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com getting ready to join me. I want to thank again Coach Gary Waters from the CSU Vikings Men's basketball team for joining us. Head coach, always love get a chance to sit down and talk some hoops with Coach Waters. See, that's a guy rooted in reality, man. At the beginning, I'm waxing nostalgic and poetic about, hey, man, what a refreshing thing with Cardale Jones. He said, well, I'm not saying it's not refreshing, but let's just wait until the draft passes first and make sure that the young man is still in college, because he's seen how easy it is. Hey, look, think about how many times you changed your mind at the age of 23 or whatever it is. So, but anyways, good conversation, great stuff. Go Vikings. Looking forward to having Coach back on the show here next month as we get towards playoff time. I mean, can you believe we're already, not only 28 days away from spring training, we're only a month away from the month of March Madness, baby. Like, the basketball season is quickly winding in, so as soon as one thing goes away, here comes the other, man. We'll very quickly have the really exciting build, the conference tournaments, all that end of season basketball stuff coming, and then of course the playoffs. So we'll talk more about that, and we'll talk more with Coach Waters as the season goes on. Right now, we're talking football. NFL, baby. Championship weekend is upon us. 4 teams remain. Only 2 will be left after this weekend, and they're the 2 meeting in the Super Bowl, man. We've got a chance to have a repeat winner, perhaps, a first-time Super Bowl appearance, a guy that's always there and nobody likes it, and there's all kinds of places that this thing could go here this weekend. So let's talk about it with Jeff Gorman. You talk about it with us on Twitter, on Facebook, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Email us, TheSportsFix@AOL.com. You can't call because Jeff Gorman's already on the line. Let's go to it now. Jeff Gorman writes for Browns101.com. He's here every Friday during Browns season. We are looking ahead to the Browns games, but the Browns season is over. But the rest of the people are still playing, and there's 4 good ones left. This weekend, championship weekend, scouting reports, my man, Jeff Gorman's got them. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing super, J-Rocc, and while you're talking about crazy things that people say, things that aren't really going to happen, I thought I would sort of up the ante by giving you this quote from Trent Richardson, who was deactivated last week by the Colts.
I know
he said, quote, anyone can quote me today because it's never going to happen again.
And as he's saying it, there's speculation that he's already going to be left off the active list again this weekend. When I saw that yesterday, the first thought in my head was, well, that's great, but did you run that by your coach first? Because I'm pretty sure he's the one thinking a little bit differently than you are about this situation here, man. So But yeah, I got a kick out of that too. He said it's never going to happen again. Literally, while talking heads on TV are debating whether he's going to be active again or not. I said, well, sometimes you're better to just sit back and say nothing than open your mouth and confirm what everybody's already pretty sure of. But hey, man.
Right. I mean, first of all, he has no way of controlling this, and second of all, what does he expect to have like the greatest week of practice ever? That that he's definitely going to be on the team, for the rest of the way. And there's no basis to make that statement.
Heading into championship week, Pagano's just going to realize, damn, Trent Richardson can play after all, man. Like, look, I got a kick out of that, man. He's a rolling ball of butcher knives, baby, man. I'll tell you what, say what you want. That move alone erases most of the bad things that I feel about a guy like Joe Banner's time here, because it doesn't, seriously. That's the equivalent of trading Nick Swisher. If the Indians can pull that off, that's the equivalent, is trading Trent Richardson less than 1 year later for a first-round draft pick, man. You gotta tip your hat to him for that. If anything else, when Browns fans see Joe Banner, if you ever run into him, buy him a beer for that one and just go, hey, this is for Richardson. He'll know what you mean. He'll know where you're coming from.
Right, and the difference is that we didn't know it at the time. We were like, whoa, what are you doing?
Right,
this guy was like for 1,000 yards last year. How can you trade him? And it turns out he was right.
Well, no, mainly it wasn't that. It was, I think mainly people were like, well, we don't have anybody else. And as we know, that was so true, because we ended up suffering through a season where we didn't have a running back. But it wouldn't have mattered, because we didn't have a coaching staff that wanted to hand the ball off to anybody anyway. Like, these guys have one of the most mediocre offenses in the NFL and decided to throw it more than anybody else in the league. They're out there winging it more than Luck, more than all these other teams. And you're going, really? We did that. With the combination of Hoyer, Wheaton, and Jason Campbell, we decided to lead the league in passing attempts last year. So it wouldn't have mattered if Jim Brown was running, because they weren't handing him the ball anyway. But that being said, Trent Richardson's no Jim Brown, as we know. But anyways, I'll tell you what, man. That was kind of a good setup for what we're doing here, because the teams that are left, we're joking about mistakes and fixing mistakes that the Browns have made and other teams have made over the years. And amazingly, the Colts could afford to make a mistake like they did with Trent Richardson and still be in a decent position. But when you're talking about these teams, my man, that are left, you're in the opposite area. Most years, 9 times out of 10, the final four are four of the more stable for some of them, the efficient franchises. Obviously, the opposite of the type of offseason conversations we've become way too accustomed to here in Cleveland.
That's right. You're basically talking about the perennial powerhouses. And, of course, you've got the Seahawks winning it all last year, and then the Packers. Everybody expected them to be there this year. Of course, the Patriots, the number 1 seed. And then the Colts being kind of the outlier, breaking through. Of course, Andrew Luck not making it to the AFC Championship until now. So he finally broke through, and now he's going to try to break through one more time. Why don't we just stick like we did last week chronologically? Why don't we start with the NFC game, because that's the first one that comes up.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You brought up Rodgers there, too. Before we get into the the X's and O's and the ins and outs of the games, though, think back to the beginning of the season. And, hey, Cavs fans that want to go, hey, don't be negative on me, you can always point to that. But look at the beginning of the Packers season. The Seahawks even a bit. The first half of their season wasn't terrible or anything, but everybody, what's going on? Maybe they're not as good as they were. Second half of that season, the Seahawks started getting some bodies back. They started getting themselves together. All of a sudden, it was not a beat has been missed. But, remember Aaron Rodgers with the famous relax and all of that from early in the season. At the end of the day, they did end up obviously they want to go one more game further, but in the NFC, they ended up going as far as you can go and ending up where they wanted to be. So, for the Packers, they did end up weathering the storm, as did the Seahawks, to circle back around here. And I thought even more amazing, being able to do it last week against a team that was, hey, man, Dallas was a good team. That was a strong game, and Aaron Rodgers had, limping, all of that. There was every reason for Dallas to win that game, perhaps save for a bad call or whatnot. But regardless, Green Bay found a way to win that game and set themselves up. A lot of people think it's easier now for Seattle because of this. Not in any disrespect to Green Bay, but Green Bay going to Seattle, a bit different, especially with the gimpy Aaron Rodgers, than a Dallas squad built very similar to Seattle that has already gone to Seattle and beaten them. So some people are already just punching that ticket, much like in the other side for the Seahawks to go to the Super Bowl. Starting from there, what's your thoughts on the big storylines around this game?
Well, I think a lot of it pretty much comes down to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there was the whole discussion last week about just how bad is his leg, and it turns out that it was like, not too bad. Of course, he wasn't super mobile, but he was mobile enough. I mean, the Cowboys were trying to get to him. He was able to elude people. He wasn't running around like a crazy person. He was able to stay away from pressure and find his many targets. Andrew Quarles, Devontae Adams, Richard Rodgers, all getting touchdowns. Rodgers didn't throw any picks. Of course, Adams and Randall Cobb both over 100 yards. And of course, he's got Jordy Nelson too. So, of course, he's got, one more week, and we may hear about him aggravating the injury. So hopefully for him, it's starting to get a little better. Maybe it's just staying pretty much the same. But basically, this is pretty much the Rodgers we saw last week is probably what we'll get this week. And so he's basically mobile enough to be effective. He wasn't standing back there like a statue ready to get killed. So the Seahawks, and the funny thing is, the Seahawks are basically no-selling the fact that he's injured at all. Earl Thomas said just yesterday, we're just going to pretty much pretend that, he's perfectly fine. Yeah, he's like, I don't believe that he's really got an injury. So, there's a little bit of headsmanship and gamesmanship there. But the Seahawks are pretty much going to, and they're being a smart championship team. They're not thinking, well, we've got, an injured guy back there. They're going to treat him like he's 100% and, treat him accordingly and, not sort of lull themselves into security thinking that he's injured.
Absolutely. I don't know about that. I mean, the gamesmanship. He's hurt for sure. I don't know that what we saw last week. This is the way I described it anyway when I was talking about the game. I saw it as a tale of two halves. I didn't think Aaron Rodgers was mobile at all in the first half. He went down a few times. He was not able to do much. I thought by the end of the first half, really once you got into the second half, that the combination of all the different things, warm-up, adrenaline, all of that stuff, he got more limber and loose and got a little more Aaron Rodgers-like in the second half there. He was not that well to start the game. I really thought that, again, maybe, painkillers, whatever, juice me up, doc, I got to play, whatever it is, all of those combined. I don't think he was at all good to go at the start of that game. I mean, you could see the difference. I mean, when Aaron Rodgers played in the second half more like Aaron Rodgers, then Green Bay went on to win that game. And McMullen and I said the other day, I firmly believe that had that Des Bryant catch held up and Dallas punched it in, that Aaron Rodgers still would have won that game with 4 minutes left and would have drove that team down again. So, but I don't want to say that because I thought that it was obvious he was not at all the same person in the first half. It got better as the game went on, I thought. But if he does that against Seattle, I've said it all week, bro, he doesn't have a half to get warmed up against Seattle in Seattle with the 12th man and all of that. He'll get eaten alive or he will get re-injured if he is a sitting duck back there for the first half.
That's a very good point because, the Seahawks are very good at getting pressure on the quarterback. Last week they were able to get Cliff Averill and Bruce Irvin were able to take down Cam Newton, who's a lot more mobile than Aaron Rodgers. So they're going to be coming after him. And, of course, you've got that fearsome secondary with Cam Chancellor getting the big pick six, and Richard Sherman also had a pick too. So the Seahawks are just so dangerous. And like you said, they're going to be attacking right from the early going, and they're not going to make it easy on Rodgers. So he's going to have to, like you said, play 4 strong quarters. He's not going to have any kind of warm-up time. So it's really going to be a test of just how well he can do and just how injured or how not injured that he is. It's considering that he's going to be just thrown right into the fire. And what that really means that the Packers are going to need some help from Eddie Lacy, and he had 101 yards on the ground last week. He was really kind of an unsung hero for the Packers last week, but he's kind of banged up. His knee has been bothering him, and they took him out of practice yesterday just to kind of be really on the safe side to make sure that he's ready to go. But when you have a situation with your quarterback being hurt like that, it's going to take all hands on deck in all facets of the game to prop him up, and the running game is going to be important for the Packers just to make sure that the onus of everything isn't on their injured Aaron Rodgers.
that's going to be key, able to get those legs churning. And again, got a lot of noise, a lot of elements, a lot of things to deal with there. That first half of that game is not that it's not always important, but it's really going to be key into telling the tale of how that game's going to go. And on the other sideline, no injury concerns at all, just a quarterback looking to march his team back into the Super Bowl. In all of the conversations, Russell Wilson is always the overlooked guy because he's still got a lot of work to do. He still has a short sample size, but hell, it's a hell of a short sample size. I mean, a lot of people go whole careers without doing what he's done already early on. I mean, I think he's one of the best in the league because he is what you want, and you're not going to get a guy like Manziel to be. He is a quarterback who can run effectively when he needs to. He has that ability, but he's a quarterback first, everything else second, and that's the difference in guys like that and guys that are run first, throw second.
Right, and he's just unflappable. Even the Super Bowl last year was just not too big for him. I mean, he just mentally is just always just up to the challenge. Like last week against a very tough Panthers defense, he threw 3 touchdowns, no picks. He had a 149 rating. He didn't even get a whole lot of help from Marshawn Lynch. I mean, Lynch did all right. They just didn't give him the ball very much. He only ran for 59 yards, and I'm kind of surprised they didn't use beast mode a little bit more. I think they're probably a good idea to do so, in this game is to run the ball with Lynch a little more and try to just, keep Rodgers off the field a little more by getting the time moving and the chains moving and the time of possession more in the Seahawks' favor. But yeah, Wilson, he's got a lot of weapons too, and I think that it's strange how you can be the current Super Bowl winning quarterback and still be underrated, but he is. He's just going to have to keep building his legacy one win at a time, but so far he's been doing it.
Yeah, that's so funny, but it is true. I don't want to say underrated as much as just whenever you go, hey, franchise quarterbacks or best quarterbacks in the league, very rarely does his name come out first when you just have a group of people and you say it. You'll hear Luck. You'll hear maybe Rodgers. You'll hear Manning, obviously. You know what I mean? Brady. Then people go, oh, yeah, and the guy from Seattle, Russell Wilson, So, anyways, but I'm with you, and that's that chip on the shoulder is not to be underappreciated as well. When you've got that motivation of, hey man, I'm sick of being number 5 when people start listing them. But you know what? That's also what separates the Seahawks and primarily a guy like Russell Wilson is they're made up of a lot of guys that don't care about that stuff. Yeah, you got Richard Sherman on the other end who likes to be a little bit explosive and extravagant with his comments. Who cares? That's a different. But guy like Russell Wilson, he doesn't care if he throws for 100 yards, if he runs for 10. It doesn't matter as long as they win the game, as long as they win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see if the Packers are going to challenge Richard Sherman because they didn't really throw the ball his way very much in the opener, in the first game of the season. Remember, Seattle won that one 36-16. Yeah. It's going to be interesting if Rodgers is going to challenge him. But there's an interesting stat I found out about Russell Wilson and
Sorry, he said he's not afraid. I was just following up what you said. Rodgers says, hey, I'm not scared of him, man. I'll go after him, so we'll see.
Yeah, I bet he will. But since the Seahawks drafted Russell Wilson, they are 9-0 against Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. And
think
in
about
those
that.
games,
wow.
Yeah,
think about what you just
Super Bowl winning quarterbacks.
Other Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. He's 9-0 in his
9-0.
career. That's an amazing stat.
Yeah, the whole team. Wilson, on offense, of course, the defense doing a great job against them. In fact, those Super Bowl winning quarterbacks in those 9 games have 9 touchdowns and 12 interceptions.
I think that speaks more for Seattle's defense, obviously, because Russell Wilson's not the one stopping those other quarterbacks. It shows that he doesn't shrink from the matchup. But, man, that 9-0 is a standout number that says every time a great quarterback faces Seattle, the defense finds a way to step up and win that game. 9-0. That's not a mixed bag. That's a very decisive number right there. The other thing that you mentioned is that they already played this season. I was looking into this a little bit. Of course, they opened the season, the first big game of the year, 36-13. Seattle took care of Green Bay, which started the worries in Green Bay. Then Seattle kind of slummed around for a few weeks. I think they was 500 through 6 or 7 weeks into the season there. But, you've got a rematch in both championship games here of games earlier this season. Both were blowouts, but that's actually not very uncommon at all. In the AFC since 2009, there's only been one conference championship game that was not a rematch from earlier in the season. In the NFC, 2010, 11, 13, and now this year, it's been a rematch from earlier in the season. One of the things to look at is in all of those rematch, only once did the regular season winner also win the championship game. Baltimore defeated New England in 2012. I think, as we've seen a lot of times, and I don't know that that means anything this weekend, but a lot of times in any sport, you usually get the opposite result of the regular season matchup, both because it's a different team, it was a different time, players may have been injured, there's more serious circumstances involved in this game, but a lot of times I think we see that those games play out the opposite of the way the regular season meeting went.
Right, and this is definitely, really a long time, because this was all the way back to the beginning of the season, so like you said, the circumstances are different, but it is kind of funny how hard it is to beat the same team twice. I mean, because the losing team is, of course, going to make adjustments and say, well, what didn't work? And then, of course, the winning team has to make counter adjustments, and a lot of times it's just not enough. I think that it's going to be... I think what the Packers have to do on defense is they have to try to pressure Russell Wilson into some mistakes, and that's one thing he hasn't really made a whole lot of. But I think it's going to come down, to which team can have the more balanced attack on the ground. I think that, both quarterbacks are certainly proven commodities. I think it's going to be a matter of whether the Packers can get the running game going with Lacey, or if the Seahawks get the running game going with Marshawn Lynch. And I kind of think that it's a little more likely that Lynch is going to have a big game on the ground than Lacey. That's my prediction, sort of.
I agree with you, too. I like Eddie Lacy, but, beast mode is beast mode for a reason, man. And you know what? I don't need to go any further than the stat you laid out 60 seconds ago. 9-0 against top-flight quarterbacks. That means usually top-flight offenses. Green Bay fits right into that category, and I think the stage is set for them to make it a 10-0 there in that category. I love Aaron Rodgers. Matter of fact, by the way, I love those commercials. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, that dude is great. I'm telling you, man, whoever his people are that help get him involved in those nifty commercials, man, they got some creativity. But anyways, assuming that it's Aaron Rodgers and not Aaron Rodgers playing, they're still, man, it's hard to bet against them. But how do you bet against Seattle at home? I've got to think. I believe coming in that Dallas was better fit to battle Seattle at home like that, and Green Bay. I don't think, like you said, Lacey can match up with Lynch in the running game when you compare them to the defenses that they're going to be playing here this week, and I think that'll be the difference maker. I don't expect a blowout, but I don't know. I don't know that this one's in doubt at any point in the game, especially, as I said at the beginning, if Aaron Rodgers is not good to go from the get-go. I don't know that he has enough time like he did last week to play catch-up in the second half.
Right, and I really didn't think that Seattle was going to make it back to the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year because, it rarely happens. Very we've seen so long. In fact, it's been since the 2003 2004 Patriots that any team has even returned to the Super Bowl, let alone won it. So I thought, well, everything's probably not going to fall together for the Seahawks this year like it did last year. But they've really made believers out of me. They've really done a good job of, building on their success and not getting too big of a head, but, having that momentum from last year. They had a little bit of a hiccup earlier, but, they've got things pretty much still rolling with that same vibe that they had to get to the Super Bowl last year. I think that the difference is going to be their ability to make big plays on defense. I think, like you said, it's probably going to be kind of a low-scoring game. I don't see this being a big, high-shooting high-scoring shootout. I think it's going to be 21-17 in favor of Seattle, and I think they're going back to the Super Bowl.
I'm with you on that as far as the final result. I believe Seattle wins. I think the high point for Green Bay will be looking back to last week and being able to pull out that victory, the come from behind, and Aaron Rodgers gave you everything he's got, but you still got some things to work on if you're the Packers. And I mean, I point back to 3-3 after 6 games. What's the Seahawks record now? 13-4. That means they've gone 10-1 since they were 3-3 6 weeks into the season. That is a team that is truly reaching its peak just the right time where they want to be, and they have the fortune of running into a team that can keep up with them most days, but they're banged up and they're on the road, and I think it all adds up to Seattle going back to the Super Bowl. It's so hard to go chalk like that, but I've got to say it's all set up. I really can't see a circumstance other than, perhaps, I mean, we could all be wrong. Aaron Rodgers could step up. Well, he'll have to step up and have the game of his life if they were to pull an upset, but I just don't see it. I think Seattle's punching their ticket to the Super Bowl, my friend.
Right. It would really be amazing. I mean, considering, Aaron Rodgers already has pretty much a Hall of Fame resume and, has won Super Bowls, but I think it would be one of his greatest victories ever if he could go injured into Seattle and get his team to the Super Bowl over the Seahawks on the road. That would be almost more impressive than winning the Super Bowl in the past, but I kind of don't see it happening.
Hey, maybe the Packers are playing the okie doke. I heard the TV announcers the other night when the Cavs were playing the Suns, they were talking about how the Morris twins would, when one would foul out, the other one would put his jersey on and sneak back in the game for him or whatnot. And hey, maybe Aaron Rodgers is the one that's been, he's going to come out there and get hurt, and then they're going to go, ha. This is the real Aaron Rodgers, but it's some old wrestling style. Pull off the mask. It's
right.
Really been me all along.
Twin magic.
But, other than that, the gig is going to be up for Green Bay coming this weekend in Seattle. And then on the other side, another rematch, again from earlier in the season, from another blowout. New England, 42-20, just had their way with Indianapolis earlier in the season. Andrew Luck straight up said, I'd like to think that I'm a better quarterback and we're a better team than we were then and more well-equipped to handle the unforeseen and go up to New England and get a crack at them and try to take full advantage of it. And you got to like that mindset. But is he, going to Denver and taking care of business, that was a big step for the Colts and for Luck. I mean, while the easy thing is to say New England, Seattle in the Super Bowl, the thing that's holding me out is that momentum of youth. I don't even know if there's a phrase for what I'm saying, but sometimes a guy just comes up and says, it's my time, and I'm going to take it. And I don't know if that's this year for Andrew Luck, but all the great ones in their sport have that moment where you thought, well, maybe they're almost there. And they said, no, I'm not going on your schedule. I'm going on mine, and I'm here now. And I'll tell you what, Aaron Rodgers, if Andrew Luck can get the victory this weekend, that's this season for them, because he would have took his team on the road to the 2 favorites in the conference and beaten both of them. But that is a high task to ask, to beat a team as seasoned and as good as New England. Talk to me a bit about the storylines around this one.
Right. It would really be a lot like we just saw with Ohio State, a team that wasn't expected to be there yet, but yet they upset the 2 biggest teams on the block. And that would be amazing if Luck could do that and say in only his 3rd season to get himself to the Super Bowl, possibly against his fellow classmate of 2012, Russell Wilson. But it's not going to be easy because so far the Patriots have had Luck's number, 3-0 over Luck by a score of 144-66, including that win in Week 11. I know Luck was kind of saying, like you said, well, hopefully I'm better than that. But, Luck didn't have a whole lot of chances because the Patriots ran the ball right down their throats, 201 yards on the ground with Jonas Gray. And if you run for 200 yards in the NFL, you almost always win. I mean, for a lot of reasons. So, but the ironic thing is, the Patriots last week barely ran the ball at all. I mean, they only ran the ball for like 14 yards. They ran the ball 11 times for 14 yards. They had almost no running attack, and yet they somehow managed to beat the Ravens. I don't think they can get away with that this week. They're going to need to get the ball moving on the ground. They can't put everything into Tom Brady's hands.
I'll tell you, speaking of Brady, he sets a league record with this one. His 9th conference championship appearance in 13 seasons. Think about that sentence.
Amazing.
That's equally as amazing as that stat you just gave me about Russell Wilson there a little bit ago. The guy has played 13 seasons in the NFL, being drafted, by the way, a few slots after Spurgeon win in the 6th round of the draft, as we know. And in 13 seasons, his squad has been in the championship game. Winner goes to the Super Bowl 9 different times, brother. That is amazing. That is consistency, such respect. I know there's people that don't like Belichick and Brady. I ain't one of those guys. I've got nothing but respect for those guys. And speaking of Belichick, if he wins this weekend, he would break the tie that he's currently in with the legend himself, Tom Landry. It would be Belichick's 21st postseason victory. And guess what? Where did the first one happen? Here. I'm just going to throw that out there. But anyways, it was against New England. That's where the whole thing started, against Parcells and the Patriots. Belichick's first, and now he's looking to get his 21st here against the Colts. But man, how amazing is that with Brady? 9-13. There's the thing. That's been there, done that, knows how to handle the pressure. But then you've got the young go hard that's coming up and says, look, my time is now and I'm ready. But we're talking about Seahawks and Packers. Can they flip the script from the beginning of the season? What did you say? Week 11 it was that those teams played. That was a later season kind of a marquee kind of a game there. And so what can you expect if you're the Colts change-wise, scheme-wise from there? I don't really know what you can expect there.
Well, you have to realize that the Patriots are probably going to throw a lot more than they did in that game. They're not going to go right straight to the same well that beat them last time, because Belichick simply likes to change things up and likes to be unpredictable. It's like, if we beat you with the running game last time, we're going to try something different to beat you this time. They're not going to, expect, a repeat of that. So we're probably going to see a lot more passing from Brady. Of course, Brady last week, the Ravens secondary was not able to stop him. And so the main task of the Colts is going to be to try to contain all those weapons, like Gronkowski, of course, him, but then, of course, you got Amendola, who had a really big game, and, Brandon LaFell had a touchdown. So there's just so many, targets that Brady has. But, of course, Luck has very many himself with T.Y. Hilton and Reggie Wayne and Toby Fleener. And then he threw touchdowns last week to Hakeem Nicks and Dwayne Allen. So this game, I think, really has more of a potential to be kind of a wild, crazy 41-38 type of shootout, which, of course, would be very entertaining, because neither team has really been relying too much on the ground. And although the Colts, they were able to get just enough of a running game out of Boone Heron. He had 63 yards on 23 carries. That doesn't sound great, but he was able to run the ball just enough to keep the Broncos honest and kind of mix things up with the run and the pass. And that's what they're going to have to do, because, you're going to have, I think somebody's going to have to be able to run the ball in order to win this game.
And that's going to be huge, obviously. I mean, we've talked about it the last couple of times these two teams played. New England has just ran right down the throat of the Colts earlier this season. As you said, Jonas Gray with the 201 yards and 4 touchdowns that he didn't play the next week, which was great for fantasy football league owners. But, you had that. You had LeGarrette Blount ran over him in the playoffs last year. That's going to be big. But, Andrew Luck, you brought up a lot of those negative stats. One that I don't think I heard you say right along those lines, against the Patriots, his interception percentage of 1 every 6 pass attempts, it's the worst of any team that he's ever played more than one time in his career. So there's something perhaps to be said schematically that perhaps the Patriots and Belichick's defense just know intrinsically a little bit better how to defend Andrew Luck, perhaps, or some of his tendencies, because they seem to have consistently better success against him.
Right, and that's the tricky part. You got to ask yourself, do the Patriots just know how to play Andrew Luck? Do they have his number? We've talked about in the past about how certain quarterbacks seem to have the Browns' number. There's a situation where does another team have, a great quarterback number? It doesn't really happen that often, and this is another one of those barriers that Andrew Luck is going to have to break through in order to make it to the Super Bowl. But I think one thing that you have to realize is that the Colts defense has really been getting a lot better. I mean, everyone's been talking all week about how Peyton Manning just physically fell apart and everything fell apart for the Broncos. And, but you got to realize the Colts, you got to give them credit. They held Denver only 13 points, and even on the ground, they held C.J. Anderson to 80 yards. That's not great. I mean, it's better than 100, but, they were able to pretty much keep him in check. And, the guy who really did the best last week for the Colts is our friend DeQuell Jackson. I mean, he had 11 tackles, 10 of them were solo tackles. And, of course, Vontae Davis and LaRon Landry both did really well last week. So the Colts have, I think, a very underrated defense, but they're really going to have a big task against them to try to stop everything that New England can throw at you. But I think, like I said, I think that it's going to come down to who can get just enough of a running game going to keep the other defense honest.
I'm going to counterpoint you, though, when you talk about that Colts defense. I think that's where they're going to lose the game here this week. No matter what Andrew Luck and Tom Brady go out there and do, is when you look defensively, number one, looking back at that game in Week 11, I see that the Colts went after Tom Brady. They blitzed him on over 50% of the passing dropbacks, and it was the most anybody blitzed Tom Brady all season long. He had a quarterback rating of nearly 100, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He really handled it well, and that was a healthier backfield because defensively, Vontae Davis, Greg Toller may or may not. Obviously, you try to get all hands on deck in a championship game, but they're not practicing all week. So will they be out there playing? Those are 2 keys to that secondary. If you've got a weakened secondary there as well, you're just exposing yourself even more. And Tom Brady, with no shortage of weapons to distribute that ball to, will do what he did before, continue to pick those guys apart. And then obviously the one thing defensively that may play into their favor, the Colts, would be the status and as the game goes on, not just starting, of whether the center, Brian Stork, whether he's going to be able to play and how that's going to go. He also hasn't practiced here. But as we've seen, Belichick will figure out a way, even if he's just got to go 4 offensive linemen. He'll figure out a way to make that thing work. But it's going to be interesting here. I think even forget what the quarterbacks do with each other. I just think defensively, New England appears to have the number of the Colts and of Andrew Luck in these last couple of seasons, and I think they're going to ride that defense and they're going to win. I actually think that there's a chance that this game is not as competitive as some people think. And that being said, I may have just guaranteed Andrew Luck his first Super Bowl because I'm known for jinxing people like that. But I don't see it, man. I think that New England's going to win this one and win it kind of handily. I said it last week, so maybe I'm doing the Colts a favor, but I just don't see how they can even hang for 4 rounds, for 4 quarters, however you want to look at it, with the Patriots. I just don't think their defense is going to hold up, and I think the Patriots' defense, as I said, has their number offensively, at least with Andrew Luck.
Well, you know what, J-Rocc? I'm going to flip the script on you. I think the Colts are going to pull off the upset. I think they're going to run the ball better. Yeah, I think their running attack is a little bit better. And I think one alarming thing about the Patriots, even though they won last week, is they were not able to touch Joe Flacco. They were not able to sack him at all. And if they can't get any pressure on Luck, that's going to give him he'll be able to just sit back there and have a lot of time to throw to his target. So I think that this is the day that Luck is going to pull things out, and it's not going to be Luck, it's going to be skill. And I think the Colts are going to upset the Patriots 30-20, and they're going to go to the Super Bowl.
Wow. I mean, you're not the only one. I saw some talk in the chat room there. I think LG said he's got the same thing there too. I mean, I wouldn't be crazy for saying that. And I hear you. They took care of the business. I said the Colts aren't going to compete with the Broncos, and it was the other way around. So they really could. And as I said, do not count out that drive of just being the guy and saying my time is now. And maybe every guy, every franchise player, whether he's a LeBron James, whether he's a Kobe Bryant, whether he's a Michael Jordan, whether he's a football, whether he's Joe Montana, it doesn't matter. They have that moment, that game where they say, this is it. This is where I'm going to show you who I am and why I am what I am. Now, I think his time is still to come. I think he's still developing, and I think that everybody's got that guy. And I think Belichick may just go down as that guy that always matches up poorly, perhaps, for Andrew Luck. But we'll see. He may show up and go, forget J-Rocc, forget all of you. We're going to slap the Patriots around at home, and we're going to the Super Bowl. We're kicking the door open. I think that's one of the most intriguing things about it is that storyline there of, how's it going to play out? I'm sticking with my pick. I'm going with the Patriots and the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, but I'm not surprised that you went the other way. There's a lot of people leaning that way after what they did last week. The Colts made believers out of a lot of people, but to me, there's still a difference between beating a team that's, one and done. Or I know they went to the Super Bowl last year, but we know with Peyton Manning and all of that with the Broncos, it's a different task than beating a true championship team year in and year out that the New England Patriots are. So that's why I'm sticking with the Patriots. But I appreciate your guts, and you may very well be laughing at me next week going, man, I told you the Colts went and did it, and if they do, they're going to do it on the arm of Andrew Luck for sure.
Well, we'll see. I think both games are going to be really fun to watch. I think the first game between Green Bay and Seattle is going to be a good defensive battle with, just enough offense to keep it really exciting. But I think the second game between the Pats and Colts will be a really wild shootout. It's going to be a lot of fun. And you can tell they're kind of trying to pump up those ratings by having that first game started around 3 and then have the second game start about 6:40. So most of it goes into prime time and they get a big whopping rating. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, I do too. Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com with us every week here. We're talking a little championship week preview. I've got the Patriots and the Seahawks. Jeff flipped the script on me. He's going Colts and Seattle in the Super Bowl. Man, when we talk next week, we'll know who they are and who's going to meet each other, and we'll be able to look back at these games and more. So I'm excited. Should be a good weekend. Last one with multiple football games in the same weekend.
Yeah.
Man. I know it's tough. It's tough, but you know what? We'll bridge through it. We got March Madness coming, then spring training. Then next thing you know, I'll stop at spring training for now, but there's other things coming up here down the road. I don't know if I can say NBA playoffs just yet, but there's at least March Madness and spring training coming up, maybe, but and a Super Bowl. So I just, me, I'm a football guy. I'm sitting here going, man, really? And I see my man Bruce in the chat room. He can't wait for it to end. I am the opposite. I enjoy me some football. All the sports, but obviously football, the great American pastime to me. All right, my man Jeff Gorman from Browns 101, and of course the American pastime is baseball, but I don't know if you can actually say that in 2015 anymore. Even though the older school generation has heard it for so long, they believe it. I truly believe in 2015, America's pastime is the NFL. And that's not because I like it. That's just, I think, the reality. They are the ratings monster. They're the media monster. They've got the attention of the general public. I believe that the NFL is America's pastime in 2015. What do you think?
I think you're right. I think we could call baseball America's traditional national pastime, but I think the real national pastime is football.
And that's not disrespect to baseball. It's just the way the times have changed. It's the way things have changed now, because for so many years it was baseball. No argument about that. But, you've got this millennial generation. They do things a little bit differently, and some of them don't care for the old the bat and the ball. I don't get it, my friend. But anyways, Jeff Gorman, we talk about both. Next week, we'll talk some baseball on Tuesday, some Super Bowl on Friday. How's that sound?
Sounds good. Can I give you a quick plug before I go?
No. I tell you this every time. Of course you can. What do you got?
Tomorrow night, I'm going to be announcing play-by-play for Caged Madness 33 MMA from Explosive Fight Promotions down in New Philadelphia. So if you're on Saturday night and you're anywhere near New Philadelphia, come to West High Auto on West High Street, and we'll have some good fights for you down there.
New Philadelphia. That's like Columbus way, isn't it? That's like in that Coshocton way, something like that.
It's about an hour south of Canton.
There you go. Okay, the hour south of Canton. There you go. MMA, Caged Madness. Check it out. Of course, Jeff tweets about that. You guys, where can they find out more about that?
ExplosiveFightPromotions.com.
Bam. There you go. ExplosiveSegment.com with Jeff Gorman. My man, good previews, good talk. Let's see what happens, man. Seahawks, Packers, Colts, and the Patriots. It's going down for real on Sunday.
All right. Sounds like fun.
You got it. Jeff Gorman, have a good one. You guys can follow him, of course, IndiansandBrowns101.com. Not Indians and Browns101.com. I mean, we do have some long website addresses here. Did the tribe win last night.com, Indians101.com or Browns101.com. That's where you find the writings of Jeff Gorman. Thanks to Jeff for joining us. Let's take a break. Hit it. Final segment. Let's get right back to it and wrap things up. Cavaliers right back at the La La Land tonight. It's the Clippers instead of the Lakers coming up. I've got a basketball game coming up tonight. Monsters with 3 on the road and more. Final segment of the Sports Fix coming up next.
And now, a very special announcement from the Sports Fix.
Black bears weigh between 200 and 500 pounds. Brown bears weigh between 300 and over 1,000 pounds. Black bears run away from you. Brown bears run at you. When attacked by a bear, simply lie still on the ground and cover your face and head with your hands. When the bear has finished batting you around and mauling you, contact the U.S. Forest Service.
And that was a message from the Sports Fix.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, FantasyJocks.com.
What's your fantasy?
Football season is party season at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. Everyone wins at Harry Buffalo. Every Saturday is Coors Light College Football Saturday with $6 pitchers, 4 bottles for $10, and the Buckeyes in full HD. Football season is most definitely party season, and your headquarters is Harry Buffalo North Olmsted all winter long. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Hi, this is Dean Chenoth, head coach of Cleveland's Lake Erie Monsters, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix, final segment of the day. Coach Chenoth, Lake Erie Monsters head coach. Their Monsters are on the road. They've got a tough weekend ahead of them. They've got 3 games coming up this weekend as they wrap up what they're in the middle of, which is this 5-game road trip that they've been playing. And this is the Monsters' final, talk about these tough ones, final 3-in-3 stretch of the season here. Coming up for those guys, and that's a tough one, man. We talk to Doug Plagans about it all the time, and I'm not trying to be one of those guys that's, again, over dramatic about how tough things are in sports, but, you know, Doug and I talk about it. 2 in a row is tough. 3 in a row, really tough, especially when that third one. We're talking hockey here. We're not talking about baseball, which you can play 162 times in 6 months. Man, I'll tell you what. There's a reason they only play one football game a week. I always say hockey players right up there among the toughest of the tough. But that Sunday one is always what gets me because you play late night on Saturday and then right back with the after. I mean, I'm telling you, you got to be feeling fantastic when you roll out of the bed on Sunday morning, being sarcastic there, and then go, oh, good. We don't even get to play tonight. We got to play like at lunchtime. So tough stretch for those guys. That's what you, well, actually, I can't even say that's what you get paid the big money to do because these cats are trying to make the big money, but it's what you do to be the best at what you do. Monsters, as I said, final 3-3 stretch of the season. Tonight, Chicago, 8 p.m. Eastern time, the Wolves and the Monsters. Monsters, of course, had a 2-1 victory on Saturday, snapped that 3-game losing streak, and they had lost 5 of 6 there. They won that game against Hamilton. Meanwhile, Chicago won their last game, 3-0 over Iowa, who the Monsters meet on the other 2 nights of this weekend here. These teams have split their previous 4 meetings this season, with the home team having won every game so far. So the Monsters looking to break that trend here. They're 1-1 on this 5-game streak. Last time these teams played, Monsters put up a goal early in the third quarter. Hamilton tied it. Monsters came all the way back to win it in the final minutes of the game. We'll see if they can do that on the road. As I said, the home team has won every game here thus far. Doug Plagans, my man, will be on the radio tonight. Not sure what the Monsters game is on tonight, but maybe on KNR. But no matter what, Doug Plagans calling the action live. 8 p.m. tonight Eastern, and then you've got Iowa tomorrow, 8 p.m., and then Sunday was a 4 p.m. puck drop for those guys. We'll catch up with Doug next week and follow up on the backside of that, man. Tonight, I've got to say, wow, a lot of things to get in. You know, before I get into anything else, I did not mention this at the very beginning of the show, and I slapped myself. Shame on me for not doing that as I sit here and talk and get all happy about 28 days left. 4 wake-ups come Monday before we get to spring training there, but 28 days left until spring training. Did you guys know that today, 100 years ago today, the Cleveland Indians were officially christened as the Cleveland Indians? Officially, 100 years old today is the nickname Cleveland Indians. Of course, they were the Naps before that, and a couple of other names at different incarnations for a year here and there. But this was the day, January 16th, 1915, 100 years ago today, that the Naps were transitioned into the Cleveland Indians, and it's stuck ever since. And so there you go, 100 years ago today. Of course, there's a lot of rumors about what the story actually was and where the team was actually named from, but it's pretty cool. I mean, not how many often times in your life do you come across the 100-year anniversary or something like that, man? And so there you go, 100 years ago today, the Indians became the Indians as you guys know them. And of course, they still have 28 days left until spring training. Yeah, baby. You know, summer's right around the corner when the trucks back up and pitchers and catchers start reporting. You just know it. I think we may have gotten fortunate. I may be cursing us right now for June snowfall, but I think we may have gotten fortunate this year, and we may be able to get perhaps one of those milder winters before we're done. Why did you guys let me finish that sentence? We are cursed for Polar Vortex 37 to come through now. I just guaranteed myself. It'll probably come while I'm driving across town all over the place. Of course, tonight I've got Strongsville and Menor. There's a good one. Menor, number 7 in the current top 25 here in Northeast Ohio high school basketball teams. Just lost their first game of the season. A tough one against a nationally ranked team here the other day. Now they're looking to get back on the winning track. They've got Strongsville. I'm going to head out. Like I said, I get the awesome pleasure of driving all the way across town to one place to pick up the equipment that I need for my broadcast and then completely going to the other side of town. And meanwhile, both directions, I will be driving in the heart of Friday evening rush hour traffic. It should be a fantastic evening of expletive-driven comments to my fellow drivers. I'm not even going to lie. They may not like me very much if they hear what I'm saying, but I'm just kidding. It'll be some fun. I've actually never seen this squad here tonight, so it'll be a lot of fun to call the Cardinals for the first time against Strongsville. Looking forward to it. If you happen to want to join me, 7:30 tip-off. Probably pregame show will probably be on the air about 7:15, 7:17. 7:30 tip-off. WINTradio.com if you're listening around the world. You can check it out there. TuneIn.com, like you listen to the Sports Fix on certain, so at least some of you do. They have a WINT 1330 app. And, of course, if you're here in Northeast Ohio, just flip that dial, Daddy, 1330 AM, and you will hear the harmonic melodies and tones of the Big Daddy giving the Strongsville Menor play-by-play tonight. Cavs, they're playing some hoops tonight, too. Of course, we talked at the beginning of the show. Big, I'll say it. I'm gonna say big victory last night, regardless of who they played. Not because of the level of competition, because you needed to win a game. You had to crack the bubble on the pressure that was there. All it did was buy you 24 hours, another chance to go out here and get at it again. But if you guys, and many of you probably didn't because it was a late night game last night. But if you stayed up and watched Coach Blatt after the game, it was like 1,000 pounds removed. And I know it's just one game, and you lose a couple more, and then it could be right back to where it was just a few days ago. But I mean, it was a noticeable difference on that man's face last night. And I'll tell you what I got a kick out of. If you didn't watch it, go back. You can pull up the post-game press conferences on the Cavs website. Go to Cavs.com and pull up David Blatt's post-game stuff from last night. At one point, I yelled at my TV. I said, just say what you're trying to say, because he was trying to say that the reason that the Cavs won that game last night was because they played defense. And on the nights that they play defense, they're a completely different team than on the nights that they don't. And the next question was, well, what do you attribute that to or whatnot? And he actually did because he started to talk. He said, well, to be honest, with the defense, because he was trying to think, and I get it, because everybody blows every word that he says up. He was trying to make sure that what he said next did not come across as being too, accusatory of his team. But you could almost see he said, forget it. I don't care. I'm just going to say it. It's the effort. When they put the effort like that, this team is a much different, much better team. But as he's going, and he's thinking about how he's going to say it, I literally yell at my TV, just say it's because when they decide to play defense, they're a much better team than when they don't. And he did get around to saying it, but you could see the process of trying to think of how to say this without causing another problem that we're going to have to deal with for the next 3 or 4 days. And that's why I say also getting the win, no matter who it was against, definitely took a little bit of that pressure off. And here, I'll be fair, this is an interesting little story. For those of you guys that didn't see it in today's Plain Dealer, the Cavs talked about how they were a little bit of trickeration going on by David Blatt yesterday. He told the team they were going to practice. Obviously, the bus picked them up. And instead of taking the bus ride to practice, they took the bus 20, 25 minutes out of town, hit up a bowling alley. And I know somewhere Andrew Bynum's going, damn, if they'd have took us bowling last year, I might have played a little harder. But taking the Andrew Bynum joke out of that, they were just able to go and have some fun as a team, away from the spotlights. Nobody knew that they were there. They just went and had, like Tristan Thompson said, we just went and had some bad food and some good fun and just, yucked it up together. Nobody saw it coming. And maybe, just maybe, that little, it does take, it's so easy. I think I said this with Coach Waters at the beginning of the show. I do it, you do it, we all do it. It's so easy to hold guys accountable to the fact that you make millions and millions of dollars to do this. But there are realistic human elements of it. And as I said, no matter what you thought about the Cavs, if you thought that the pressure was not hanging on the entire team, it really was. And again, if you lose tonight, it's right back there. It's not like it's going to go away, but you bought a reprieve, which was just needed from a mental state of mind. And at least for one day, you're not asking who pushed who and who doesn't like who and who's calling timeouts. And I'll tell you what, David Blatt fired back before the game yesterday too. He said, man, you can't, nobody's calling timeouts behind my back. Nobody's doing this. This is my team, our team. We're doing this thing together. This is all a bunch of nonsense. I'm just glad somebody said something. Somebody's got to address it. But Reggie Miller hit the nail on the head last night. I tweeted it. For those of you that follow us on Twitter, at the SportsFixCLE, I tweeted the moment he said it. Reggie Miller straight up laid it out there. How many times have I said this in the last couple of weeks on the show? It begins and ends with LeBron James. Not whether they win or lose, not whether he scores or not. I'm not saying anything about that. The pressure on David Blatt, the pressure on this team, and the crap from the media and from the outside and from the inside, it all begins and ends with LeBron James. LeBron James stands in front of those cameras today and says, I love this man. He's still growing. I'm still learning him, but this is my coach, and he's going to be our coach for the rest of this season. That's it. It's over. You guys notice that whatever LeBron says, the media chalks it up and says, all right, LeBron has spoken, and then they put it out from the mountaintops. So it's just that simple. And you don't need Jerry to see it. You don't need the Sports Fix to see it. You got guys at the top level of the game, Reggie Miller, Shaq, those guys, again, hit it on the head last night. Reggie Miller on his own said, look, it's LeBron. It comes down to him. He can stop all of this right now. And if he did, I think there'd be a night and day difference in the day-to-day demeanor of this team, because instantly that is the one guy that everybody really believes is calling the strings, whether it's true or not. You can have David Griffin deny it. You can have David Blatt deny it. You can have Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson. You can have anybody else deny it all you want. The only person who can say it and people will go, oh, because what does everybody say? The big joke. Did Coach LeBron approve of that? Or did Coach LeBron or did General Manager LeBron approve of that trade? My buddy goes, hey, you think they didn't call LeBron 3 times an hour before they made that trade? Of course they did. LeBron signs off on all of that. Point being is if he says it, everybody backs off and it's over. That's it. There will never be another question about David Blatt until this season ends if he would come out and do that. Part of me hopes that perhaps, you know, these guys, a lot of them watch the broadcast back, watch the film, they watch NBA film, but if in some way, LeBron James does happen to see that remark, I would hope that having it pointed out by a Hall of Fame level guy like Reggie Miller makes him go, you know what? Man, I can fix this right now, because that could go a long way towards what the Cavs are trying to do. No way did a magic wand get waved yesterday and fix everything. They really did not play good defense for the first 3 quarters, but they did in the third, late third and into the fourth quarter. And they showed this team lights out difference. Literally flip a switch in how they play when they defend and when they don't. And they still gave up 100 points to a poor offensive team, but it was enough to get the win. Look, you only have to score one more than the other team, but the Lakers shot 60% in the first half. They held them to 40%, did the Cavaliers, in the second half. It was clear as day they made more of an effort. You still need more. You can't let teams start out shooting 60%, but they did buckle it down in the second half. And again, they got the victory over a team that is not in great straits at all, but it was a victory that was needed. And I go back to Kevin Love taking that charge. I've questioned his toughness. I still do. But he goes out there and performs like he did last night, physically, not just in the stat line. Bro, that'll earn a lot of respect, not just from us, from you, from me, from the guys he's playing with. Because I think there's cats on that team that question whether he's got it, whether Kyrie's got it. Anybody that hasn't done it, you question whether they got it. He needs to step in front of a few more charges before people can say, hey, Kevin Love's starting to get it. But I love that play, and I really do think that kind of pulled everybody up to come through. He said after the game, he said, if they'd have called me for a block, I don't know that I was getting up off the floor. I may have been done for the night after that one. It took 3 guys to come and pull him out. But, even LeBron, his statements after the game, impressed by Kevin Love differently. You got to read between the lines of what they say. You have to earn whatever. You have to earn the King's respect, whatever. But maybe, just maybe, Kevin Love earned a little bit of it back last night. It's what these guys all have to do. And then maybe this thing can come together. We'll see. But last night, all you can do is win the one in front of you. And they did. And now they've got a tougher one in front of them because you got the other team from L.A. And these are not the Lakers. These are the Clippers coming up here. Fred was funny last night as he said, we just flip the floor, flip the banners, and come to the building and do it again. But he is right. And the Cavaliers have to be on their A game tonight, because you're talking about one of the best teams in the NBA. And if you come out there and you let them shoot 60% in the first half, there will be no second half comeback. The Clippers are 26-13 on the season. As we know, they've got some studs over there. You've got a lot of things to worry about. The Cavaliers can only play one game at a time. This one's a tough one in front of them. It's the second night of a back-to-back. Luckily for them, it's the end of this trip. They're going to come home and have some home games coming up, but back end of a back-to-back is always tough here. And again, what will you get? And I don't know what you'll get physically out of Kevin Love tonight, because he was hurting pretty good last night. Said it happened right before the warm-ups, and that's scary. When a guy, he said he stood up too quick during the introductions, and that locked his back up. That's scary, because it can just come and go like that at any time, like down the road for him physically. And those are question marks you got to ask yourself when you're talking about max contracts and those things that we'll talk about later on in the season. But, tonight, the Clippers, and guess what? Not only are playing one of the best teams, but they're literally one of the best at home. They're looking for their 18th home victory this season out of their 26 wins. That would be best in the Western Conference. Of course, as we said, Cavs coming off the 109-102 victory over the Lakers. LeBron had 36 points. Kevin Love stepped up. Kyrie Irving, a lot of guys. J.R. Smith with some points off the bench. Cavs only went 8 deep in the rotation last night, but it was enough for them. Cavs have still lost 8 of 9. They still have a lot of work to do here, but they started on the right track there yesterday. Kevin Love feeling good being back home. Maybe that's what pumped him up here. Last two, if he plays tonight, good stuff to look out for. Last 2 times Love's played the Clippers in L.A., 70 points, 38 rebounds in those 2 games. So he's averaging 35 and, 17? A pretty good last couple of appearances. We'll see if he can do that. But Cavs have not won 2 straight on the road since early in December. They're going to have to come out here and do it. The Clippers are 18-1. When they shoot 46% or better. So if you let them come out and shoot 60% in the first half, just pack up your bags and go home now, because there's not a chance in the world you're going to come back from them. Clippers have also done a great job defending the three-point line, holding opponents under 30%. As we know, Cavs have a few players not afraid to shoot them from there, including J.R. Smith. He's gone 11 of 24 from 3 in his last 2 games. That'll be something to watch here tonight. Cavaliers, Clippers, late night. Cavs live tonight. 10:30 is the tip-off. Then they're done on the West Coast. Come back home. You got Chicago on Monday, so we'll be able to talk about that coming up here next week. You got a lot of things here after this weekend coming up. I saw that, too. I see Bruce in the chat room. Doc Rivers going to coach his son. I saw that trade that they were working on over there with the Clips, and at first it looked like Rivers may end up on a different team in that deal, but the way it works out, it's a rather unique situation. I don't think it's ever happened before. I'm not 100% positive, because I know that there have been father-son combinations. I know Larry Drew the second. There's a couple of combinations that have been in the NBA, but I don't know they have played on the same team. Coach, player, etc. You know what I mean? I'll look into that, but pretty cool stuff. I think it'd be pretty cool to do some athletic endeavor on a professional level with your son or your father in the future. Pretty cool stuff. Clippers, Cavaliers tonight, 10:30. Of course, AFC, NFC championship games coming up this weekend. We talked about it earlier. We'll be here on Monday to look at the back end of that. John McMullen from the Sports Network. We're looking ahead to a Super Bowl coming up here. We've got a lot of things to talk about on Monday with John McMullen, with Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan, with you guys. We'll talk about the NFL. We'll talk about the latest with the Monsters over the weekend, the Cavaliers, and so much more. Come on back here and do it with us live, noon, Monday. Same bad time, same bad channel. You know how we do it, baby. Right here on the Sports Fix, across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Guys, again, thanks for another great week, another great day. Thanks to CSU, the Vikings, head coach Gary Waters for joining us today. Good way to start out the show earlier on. And thanks as well to Jeff Gorman. Great previews of the AFC and NFC title games. And thanks to each and every one of you guys for being here with us, not just today, but always here on the Sports Fix. You guys, I see you, Charles, over there in the chat room as well. Of course, you got Blue Jackets hockey going on tonight. They've got the Rangers at home trying to snap that 3-game losing streak. 7 p.m. puck drops for the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight. Matter of fact, if you live here in Northeast Ohio, you can hear that game over on 1330 WINT, where I do my high school and basketball and football play-by-play as well. So check that out, you guys. I'm getting ready to roll. I see the phones ringing, but I am at it and up against it. I've got to hit the road, you guys. I will open up the phones on Monday. Hit me up, Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Email us, TheSportsFix@AOL.com. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. Enjoy the football. Enjoy the Monsters, the college hoops, the Vikings tomorrow. They've got Youngstown State, the Penguins, and whatever you're into, enjoy it, love it. Come back and talk to us about it. Let's do it Monday right here on The Sports Fix. We love you, Cleveland. We'll see you Monday on The Fix.
Tuning in to Bravo, yeah, you hear me everywhere, but it's only one of me, let me make that very clear. Yeah, I'm from that terminal, you can see the lake from here. Faith in my teams, we keep getting closer every year. But we got the king, though, so hopefully we overcome. Yes, I have a dream, and I know I ain't the only one. Modell tried to steal my heart, but we brought it back. Thanks to Cleveland Clinic, now they call them Kiss the Cardiac. Rock Car, Science Center, Tower City, all of that. Warehouse District, Euclid Corridor, and all the flat. You know that I'm a Tribes fan, and I love Slimeins. Crockett Park's the perfect place for me to spend some time in. Baby, this is Cleveland. It is so much more to us. You can even go to Severance Hall to see an orchestra. Hey.